name's Garret Archer, driver of the number 5 super late model, the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series at Evergreen Speedway. So some of the misconceptions that people have about NASCAR is that we only turn left. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's actually a lot more than that. So when we're going straight, getting ready to make that left turn, we got to hit the brake pedal to slow down. When we're doing speeds of 130 to 150 miles per hour, we aren't going to be able to make the corner unless we hit the brake. So what happens when we go in, we hit the brake, it puts all the weight of the car on the front nose. So when all the weight transfers to the front nose, it lifts up the rear end, making it almost weightless. What makes it going into the corner, you're trying to make that left-hand turn, but your car is trying to do this. It's trying to go everywhere but where you want it to. And when that happens, you kind of get into the corner, and once you finally kind of catch it and get it settled back down, well, now it's time to get out of the corner. And a big thing for us is we want a straight exit. So getting off the corner, the straighter you are up off the corner, if you have a corner and you're going straight up off, the quicker you're going to be, the more throttle you can apply to get you to the next corner with more speed. So once you're going down the straightaway, there's a lot of drafting going on. So there's air, so air comes over the top car, well then you're pulling the air off of him. You're pulling the air, trying to shut down his run. So when you pull out to the inside, you can actually make an air gap where it puts more pressure on his car, creating with less pressure on your car, creating more mile per hour for you, so you can potentially make a pass on them going into the next corner. And not to mention, while you're doing all this drafting and all this chaos is going on, you got 30 other cars behind you, around you, or you're behind all of them. So there's a lot going on. It's more than just left turns. It's a lot of really competitive racing, out of controlness, not knowing where this guy's gonna end up, not knowing where you're really gonna end up when you first get into the corner. And it's just controlled chaos is what we kind of like to call it. So another thing about our cars is there's a lot of engineering that goes into it. So in the rally world, there's a lot of engineering, but it's going off jumps and it's landing that jump and how to do that right. Well, with our cars, our engineering is we go into the corner and we want the car on the racetrack. We don't want any air going underneath. Our cars, our front shocks, they'll actually come down and this will be completely into the racetrack. And when it's down into the racetrack, we have a lot of rebound holding the front suspension, the shocks, on bump stops. So there's these little hockey puck type looking rubber bump stops that the top of the shock actually hits. And then when it hits, we have a bunch of rebound to hold it down. And what that actually causes is it causes the car to help it rotate and help it get through the corner. The performance of that, we monitor it like the whole weekend. We know our track, we know our shock travel, we know our rebound percentage, we know our shock percentage, we know all the gas pressure, and we can adjust that as we go on through practice. So another cool thing is these are all fiberglass fenders. So they aren't steel, they aren't aluminum, they're nothing like that. So they're just fiberglass. And we mount them onto these cars to a spec. So all these cars, they get templates put on top of them to basically make it so you don't have a big advantage over other cars. So these fiberglass fenders, they get sent to us and then we modify them to fit the race car, but we can't modify them quite too much to get out of the template. So we're racing on asphalt the entire time. We're never going off the asphalt. So our tires are actually a 10-inch slick tire with 0 tread at all. So that helps us just have better grip and more performance on an asphalt track. Now, whenever we go off the dirt or into the dirt, it's definitely out of control and you have no control over it. Where in a rally car, you have the treaded tire, what obviously helps you quite a bit. And then back here, so we have our spoiler. So a lot like a rally car, they have a spoiler that helps them create downforce. So what this does is we have air that comes up over the top of the race car and then it pushes down on this, pushing the rear end down. And like I said earlier, so when we get into the corner, we hit the brake and all the weight transfers. So the weight transfers and the shocks, they go and hit the bump stops, well, then there's no weight up here. So this kind of just creates downforce and helps us manage that a little bit better. Here at DirtFish, their motto is lift, turn, brake. So you go into the corner, you lift, you turn, you brake. Well, when you lift, all the weight transfers and then you're turning. So at DirtFish, it really helps with your car control, or it helps me with my car control, because it helps me, you know, have that feeling and be able to manage it and then be able to make the corner. So now I'll take you inside the car. So this is my office. This is where I get to hang out. So the doors don't open, so we get to climb up in here, wiggle our way in. But so this is our seat. So we have full containment seats. This is a Butler built seat, and it's custom built to me. So when we get in, it doesn't really move much. We don't really move much if there's impact. We're pretty much stuck in there. And then, so if we look down in here, so we have our 3 gauges. So we have our RPM gauge, our oil pressure gauge, and our water gauge. And then we have these switches right here. So this is our brake fan. So I have a brake fan, and then I have my ignition and my water fan, what all help control the car. And then we have a roll cage, obviously, to keep us safe. And then unlike a rally car, we only have 4 gears, because we don't really need 6 gears. Once we get in our high gear, that's where we race at. We don't do any more shifting. The only shifting we really do is on restarts. All right, so now let's go look at the motor compartment. So this is our 600 horsepower Chevy small block. They come straight from the East Coast. They're a lot of fun, and then we kind of have some small stuff. So like I was talking about, the brake fans, the brake fan switches that were inside. So when our brakes overheat, we can just turn on a switch, and then we get air flowing right into them, and they can cool right back off. Here's our shocks. So like I was talking about, they're coilover springs, and then they'll go down and they'll hit a bump stop, and they'll actually ride on that bump stop while we're going through the corner. So yeah, the engine, it's a carbureted engine, naturally aspirated. It's 8 cylinders, small block Chevy. It's about a 358 cubic inch. They make about 600 horsepower to 620, and then they come out right about to about 580 feet of torque as well. They're great motors. They always have a lot of power. Sometimes you'll try to push down that gas a little bit too far, and it gets squirrely off the corner because there's just too much horsepower. You're trying to do too much with these tires. You can't just mat it and not have the car get sideways. So there's a lot of throttle control, and that's another thing that you can learn at DirtFish that really helps me out, is throttle control. Because out here on the gravel, on the dirt, when you hit the gas, it spins the tires because there is no traction. So when we're out on the racetrack and say it's the end of the race and our tires are really worn out, we can't just mat the gas because we'll get sideways and not make any speed. So you really have to finesse the gas pedal and just lay into it and not make sure you're not spinning the tire. And that's the best way to make speed and the best way to make a pass going down the backstretch. All right, so that does it for my explanation of why NASCAR is a little bit more than left turns. Hope you guys had fun, learned a few things. I'm gonna go drive a rally car.